The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us. We'll get a check on today's top stories in trucking here in just a moment, and then after that, we'll talk electric trucks. A recent report put together by Ryder looked into the cost of transitioning from diesel to electric trucks, not just for Ryder itself, but for the greater economy at large. And what they found is an eye-opener. Darren Epps, Ryder's Senior Director for Advanced Vehicle Technology, joins the program with a breakdown of what they found. Then, from two truck drivers who quickly went into hero mode to save lives, to a ticket-writing campaign in Pennsylvania and more, Tyson Fisher, S.J. Munoz, and Ryan Witkowski of Landline Magazine hand out roses to those doing right by truckers and raspberries to those doing wrong by them. And finally, Marty Ellis says a lot of visitors to the OOIDA Tour Truck are talking about one thing more than anything these days, that the price of just about everything seems to be going up. From increased roadside service costs to higher lumping fees, Marty shares his thoughts. All that and more coming up. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has issued a final rule that amends regulations for state driver licensing agencies. The rule will require all state driver licensing agencies to follow standard administrative practices required by the states. The updates were required by statute. It imposes no new regulatory requirements, no new costs, and FMCSA says any benefits that will result from it are expected to be minimal, if there are any benefits at all. Although FMCSA's final rule is mostly procedural, the agency is working on another CDL rulemaking that will be of interest to drivers and motor carriers. In February, FMCSA published a notice of proposed rulemaking aimed at increasing flexibility for state driver licensing agencies and applicants. FMCSA's proposed changes include giving applicants the option to take a CDL skills test in a state that isn't their home state. The proposal would also allow commercial learners permit holders who have passed the CDL skills test to operate commercial motor vehicles on public roads without a qualified CDL holder in the passenger seat. In formal comments signed by President Todd Spencer, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association said there is no justification for making it easier for an unqualified truck driver to receive a CDL. FMCSA should be finding ways to bolster training requirements, not dilute them, OOIDA wrote. FMCSA received nearly 650 comments on the proposal. Many of the comments echoed OOIDA's concerns. Another day, another group of House members signing on to a bipartisan bill aimed at simplifying the security clearance process for people like truck drivers. 3 more lawmakers became co-sponsors of the H.R. 5840 this week, bringing the total number to 50. The Transportation Security Screening Modernization Act is aimed at current TSA policies, which often require separate applications for things like the Transportation Worker Identification Credential and hazardous material endorsements. That's despite TSA already conducting a security threat assessment for each program. The bill would standardize and streamline the process. There's also a Senate version. It currently has 5 co-sponsors. If you use an Easy ELD, you'll want to listen up. On July 1st, Stone Ridge will discontinue support for its Easy ELD product and associated services. The company announced the discontinuation on its website. The update said that to ensure uninterrupted compliance with ELD regulations, make sure you transition to an alternative ELD provider before the 1st of July. If you have any questions, you can contact easy.eldrefund@stoneridge.com. The National Motor Freight Traffic Association is reminding people to renew their standard carrier alpha code if it's soon set to expire. A standard carrier alpha code is required when doing business with all U.S. government agencies and with many commercial shippers such as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The association assigns codes for all companies except those used for identifying freight containers not operating exclusively in North America, intermodal chassis and trailers, non-railroad owned rail cars, and railroads. To renew your code, you can visit scaccode.com. Changes are coming for those who truck across the U.S. border and have a four-legged travel companion. The U.S. Center for Disease Control recently announced that it's implementing new measures to control the entry of dogs into the U.S. to combat the spread of rabies. Starting on August 1st, all dogs entering the U.S. must appear healthy upon arrival, be at least 6 months of age, be microchipped, and be accompanied by a CDC dog import form online submission receipt. The form has to be done for each trip. You can find the link to the CDC website on our website at landline.media. An emergency contract has been awarded for a construction company to start work on repairing the Teton Pass in Wyoming. Between June 6th and 8th, a landslide destroyed a section of State Highway 22. The Wyoming Transportation Commission awarded an $880,000 emergency bid to Avail Valley Construction LLC this week. According to a press release, the company will construct a box culvert at the slide area, which will help improve drainage. Crews with the construction company are aiming to have the project complete, so the highway will be ready to reopen once the detour is complete at the Big Fill landslide on the Teton Pass. A truck driver died after a crash on I-75 in Monroe County, Michigan. WXYZ Detroit reports that the crash happened around 4 a.m. on Thursday after a semi-truck heading southbound crossed over the median into a construction zone, hit 3 vehicles in the northbound lanes, and came to rest on its side. One of the vehicles that was struck caught fire. The 47-year-old truck driver was pronounced dead at the scene. 4 others were hurt in the crash. Michigan State Police is investigating the incident. Traffic in Ohio will be slow-moving in some parts starting on Sunday, June 16th. Ohio's Department of Transportation said the 12th of nearly 24 superloads and the first of 4 loads that exceed 900,000 pounds will depart the dock site in Adams County this weekend. The convoy will head to New Albany to deliver the load, which is an air processor known as a cold box used in the silicon chip manufacturing process. The load weighs approximately 916,000 pounds and is 23 feet tall, 20 feet wide, and 280 feet long. The move is likely to take more than a week. The expected arrival is on June 25th. For route details, you can visit transportation.ohio.gov/superload. The project to expand I-70 to 6 lanes in Missouri got underway this week. A groundbreaking ceremony took place on Thursday in Columbia, where the first project will begin. That includes adding a 3rd lane of travel for eastbound and westbound lanes from Columbia to Kingdom City. Construction on the improved I-70 project is expected to be completed in late 2027. Love's has a new travel stop in eastern Oregon. The location in Baker City is off Interstate 84. It has around 80 truck parking spots and everything else you've come to expect from a Love's. It's the company's 8th travel stop in Oregon. And finally, a Great Dane in Iowa has been dubbed the world's tallest dog. UPI reports that the dog measured at 3 feet and 2 inches from his feet to the base of his neck and claimed the Guinness World Records title. The 3-year-old Des Moines, Iowa canine named Kevin was named after the main character from Home Alone. However, his owners say he is quite the opposite from the daring character in the movies, as it took extra time to measure him because he was afraid of the measuring tape. His owner described him as a gentle giant. His favorite activities are snoozing on the couch and snuggling. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Registration now open for OOIDA's Truck to Success seminar, which runs for 3 days starting October 22nd in Blue Springs, Missouri. It's a comprehensive course on what it takes to become and succeed as an owner-operator. The deadline to register to attend in person is October 1st. For Zoom, it's October 21st. We have a link at landlinenow.com. Coming up next, there's a lot of apprehension about the push to electrify the trucking industry, and a recent report from Ryder probably won't do much to ease it. We'll break down the high cost of that transition coming up next with Darren Epps from Ryder. Stick around, we're back right after this.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline now, welcome back. The transportation and logistics company Ryder is out with a new report that paints a pretty stark picture of a future that depends on electric trucks to move American goods. We're talking a massive cost to convert fleets to electric, and that's just the start. Joining us to break down the analysis is Darren Epps. Darren is Ryder's Senior Director for Advanced Vehicle Technology, and he joins us on the line now. Darren, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I imagine this push to go electric is at the front of mind for people like yourself and for companies like Ryder. This is obviously a big undertaking, but you can kind of start us off here by walking us through how this analysis got started and what it really took to come up with the numbers that we're going to discuss here in just a moment.
Right. Well, we have so many customers who have reached out to us about this transition. Like you said, it's on the front of a lot of people's minds, especially with some regulations out there. So our customers lean on us to guide them in the right direction. So, it got to a point where we wanted to, provide them with realistic comparisons. We're in a unique situation because, Ryder has the fleet size to run an analysis and get all the different factors when you're talking about, we run over 13,000 vehicles on behalf of customers alone. So we were able to have the data, we have the fleet size, and we really wanted to be able to give our customers realistic information on what that transition would look like.
Yeah, and let's get into these numbers here without much further ado here, because the cost of making this transition, and as you pointed out there, you've got all the data there that you basically need to kind of paint a picture here. And this would be an enormous cost to Ryder specifically, not just to go, to go electric here, we're talking. By extension, you found this would end up having an effect on the greater economy as well. Walk us through these numbers here with Ryder in particular, what it would take specifically to make Ryder fully electric in terms of operational costs.
Yeah, well, in our in the white paper we released on the EV total cost of transport, we were able to analyze, not just the cost of the units, but the time it would take to go from point A to point B. Obviously, charging takes longer than filling up a diesel tank. And so what that means for hours of service, for instance, establishing the charging infrastructure, that's one that is kind of near and dear to me. I used to be in the utility industry working on electric transportation. And certainly there is a lack of infrastructure. There still needs to be a lot of breaking of ground in many aspects. And that's something we assumed a network of chargers in this that doesn't even exist, just so we could map out and have the data. So it's very complex. There's going to be some needs on the power grid, particularly when it comes to high voltage transmission lines, for instance, that take years and years and years to build out for the expansion of EVs, but not just EVs. There are other growing demands on the grid. I'm in Georgia. Data centers are popping up all the time. They use a massive amount of energy. So there's other competing industries as well. So our energy system is a lot different than it was over 100 years ago when the grid was built out. I know I know FERC put out recently a rule to get people planning for 20, 30 years in advance, but it can't take that long. And when you look at the amount of power it takes, 9-10 megawatts of power, that's what powers the Empire State Building, for instance. A small town is 20 megawatts, approximately. So we're talking about huge amounts of power. So that's really where a lot of the cost comes, and that's working with the utilities, and then wherever the infrastructure is put. I mean, there's definitely a high cost there.
Yeah, and when we're looking at this issue, there are a whole bunch of challenges that are kind of swirling around, and you bring up an obvious one there with the infrastructure or the lack thereof, right? It's just not there right now. And to get us where we want to be, or where we would need to be at least, would just be a huge undertaking, right? So you talk about that cost, and then you talk about the cost in this report specifically to Ryder in terms of converting your, diesel model as it is right now to a fully electric model. And the feasibility of that, just looking at the percentages of increases here, that's another thing that just raised my eyebrows, I know for sure, and I know it has as well for other people. Can you just talk about, for Ryder specifically, what this would cost to make this transition? Maybe in a perfect world, I don't know, if everything else were lined up perfectly, it would still cost a whole bunch of money for your company, right?
Right. As it says in the white paper, we showed a pretty modest increase when you talk about light duty, like vans. Those typically are less expensive, and you don't need all the infrastructure. It's if you can charge it overnight, you can use a AC level 2 charger that is essentially a dryer plug. So obviously a much smaller scale. So you see just a tiny increase there on the light duty side. But the bigger the truck, the more power it needs, the higher charging it needs. That's when you go on medium duty. It goes up way up, and then on heavy duty, up to, I think it was 114% to cost increase to convert. So you multiply that. We manage over 250,000 vehicles. We operate, like I said, over 13,000 for our customers, and so the costs add up really quick to go 100% EV. So that's why we're tech agnostic. We just want to find the right application for the customers. It might be a different technology. It might be electric. Electric definitely works in some cases. We're considering all options going forward to reduce emissions.
Yeah, and I think that's an incredibly important point that you point out there, is that you're looking at these numbers, you're not looking at them trying to prove one thing or another. I mean, the numbers take you where they take you.
Exactly.
And in this case, they take you to a place that would cost your company and a lot of other companies a lot of money. And by extension, you found in this report, too, I thought was interesting, that in doing all of this, every action has a reaction, obviously. And in doing this, if this were to, fall in place as some people hope it would, it's going to lead to consumers paying more as well, right? You talk about inflation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So, in the end, when prices go up, the consumers pay, and regardless of the industry, and that would obviously be the case. There's higher transportation cost to move a good, then that gets passed on to the consumer. So we did analysis of that as well, and found that the increases could possibly add, 0.5 to 1% to overall inflation, which is, already a significant issue right now. So you're right to go back to what you originally said. We didn't go into this with any bias. Our job is to, integrate corporate responsibility and sustainability with our customers and ourselves. We're, like I said, tech agnostic. Every customer has different needs. Our job is to find the perfect application for that. So we just wanted to be able to, with a great deal of intelligence and experience, let our customers know, what the true cost is, that, minus just the infrastructure. There's a little reduction in payload in some cases. I mentioned the hours of service, just all the other things that may not be obvious.
So based on what you found here, and there's a lot to absorb. We're just scratching the surface of what you found here. But I know, Ryder, you are investing in electric vehicles as we speak right now. Based on this analysis and based on what you found out and, kind of taking that down the course of action here, and maybe you can't speak to this, that may be fine as well, but are you planning on doing anything differently based on this analysis in moving ahead with your EV plans, or is that kind of up in the air right now?
No, we have launched and actively have a dedicated service about a year ago, Ryder Electric Plus, to help our customers, simplify and run battery-powered fleets. includes the charging equipment, the maintenance, the advisory, and makes it one simple contract. And that's really resonated well with customers, particularly the electric advisory services that we offer as part of that Ryder Electric Plus bundle, where we look at the fleet and the data and from the telematics, et cetera, and say, look, these are probably not ripe for electrification, but these units are, and that can lead to efficiencies overall by just evaluating the network. So we're able to simplify on the light duty side. I think this study sort of confirmed that is the easiest path forward, and not sticker shock, so to speak, as say a tractor. So we still have Ryder Electric Plus, but we always are going to have our ear to the ground. I know this white paper will be a conversation starter and probably the first step of many conversations, because it's not just within our industry, but the utility industry, for instance. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had that typically probably didn't need to happen before. Trucking and leasing with utilities. So it's some new conversations for sure.
You bring up a good point there, because I've said this before, and my guess is that we are going to see more and more companies like Ryder crunch their own numbers, come up with their own analysis based on what they're seeing. And I suspect that we're going to hear, a lot of the same things that we're hearing from you here, because, when we look at the reality of the situation, it kind of makes sense as to the cost of all of this. You've obviously thought a lot about this and going through all these numbers. I guess the Class 8 version of this, the Class 8 truck, as you point out, is kind of the outlier here. It may be feasible on a kind of a smaller scale with lighter duty vehicles. Heavy duty vehicles, maybe not as feasible. Is there going to be, do you think, a time where maybe we focus more on the light duty stuff and kind of leave the heavy duty stuff to come along as the rest of it does? I mean, I guess where do you think this is all heading based on what you're seeing from the numbers?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is, the first of many discussion points. The technology changes. It changes so fast. I mean, 15 years ago, the idea of an electric car was the Tesla Roadster and the Nissan Leaf. After that, it was just barely a blip on the radar. And now you see them all the time. So technology can happen fast. But there's a lot of vehicles on the road, and in the commercial industry is different than passenger cars, where sort of a more of an emotional decision, whereas in our industry it is about cost. So I think we'll keep our ear to the ground. There's new technologies coming out all the time, new ways to charge, for instance. There's new players in the game every year. So it's definitely going to be an evolving conversation. We'll probably end up doing deeper analysis as we have these conversations, identify gaps, and solve for and deploy electric vehicles where it makes sense. So certainly at this present time, the light duty is a lot easier to get into, but it's something that's going to evolve like any new technology.
Yeah, and from what I hear from owner-operators and truck drivers in general is that, if the free market takes care of it and we get to that point and it's more efficient for everybody, then great, But I think the mandates is the thing that really has people concerned, and I'm sure I know we are going to hear more about this in the years to come. This is a conversation, as you said, that is going to continue for quite some time as we watch all of this evolve. Darren, we'll have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we wish we could talk to you longer, but that's all our time for now. But we really appreciate it, and we'll encourage everybody to go check out the report for themselves. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Our thanks to Darren Epps for his time. If you'd like to check out the report for yourself, we've got a link at landlinenow.com. We've got to take a break, but hang tight. There's more show right after this short commercial break.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine ViberTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with ViberTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Loadboard Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Loadboard Pro. Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Landline Now, welcome back. Has your senator or congressman made you happy lately? Did the truck stop make you kind of sad? When they do either one, here at Landline, we have a special way of responding.
Ew.
We call it Roses and Razzberries. Staff writer S.J. Munoz keeps track of such things for Landline Magazine and for our program. S.J. is here now with the good, the bad, and the ugly from recent news.
And we are back with another edition of Roses and Razzberries. I'm S.J. Munoz, Ryan Witkowski, Tyson Fisher joining me again as always. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Fantastic today.
Phenomenal.
Well, I didn't expect those responses, but I mean, we might as well get going then. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody, if you do have an idea for a rose or a raspberry, you can send those to roses@landlinemag.com. And I don't want to do too much describing here of this first story, Tyson. I'll just let you let it rip, and we'll go from there.
So I have roses and raspberries to give out for some incidents involving some of the most vulnerable, pedestrians and trucker co-pilots, and I'm talking about kittens and puppies. So that's what we're going to lead off with, kittens and puppies today. So roses to a truck driver who saved a kitten on the highway. So there's a video that's kind of gone viral of a kitten just laying in the middle of US 441 in I think it's pronounced Alachua County, Florida.
We'll go with it.
We'll go with it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sounds right. So anyway, this kitten's just laying in the middle of the highway while other cars are just like whizzing by, pretty close to this cat. A trucker just stops his vehicle in the middle of the highway to kind of shield the kitten to take it to safety. The Alachua County Police Department eventually shows up to pick up the kitten who was cited for obstructing highway traffic. So yeah, it's not true, but
you can imagine if it was, right?
Yeah, right. But a police dispatcher did adopt the kitten, which I'm guessing will keep away from the highways. So kudos to that trucker and the Alachua County Police Department. On the other hand, I got some raspberries to hand out to some I'll describe as psychopaths.
Sounds about right.
For abandoning puppies in dumpsters at rest areas and truck stops. So I found two stories about abandoned puppies. One was in New York, where state troopers they found they're trying to find out who dropped off 5 puppies in this like enclosed storage container that was just left at Bedford Rest Area off of Interstate 684. And then meanwhile in Hernando, Mississippi, which is just outside of Memphis, 3 hungry and dehydrated puppies were found in a dumpster at the DeSoto County Welcome Center off Interstate 55. And so, the trucker community, from all I've seen, they're definitely, it's an animal-friendly one, the community. So it's probably not a trucker, but still, it's like this sickening trend that I started to see the past couple of weeks. So just be on the lookout for abandoned puppies, apparently, because that's a trend that's going on. But that being said, I've been stumbling upon just like images of sad, hungry puppies.
That's not a Google search you want to do.
So what I'm trying to say is feel free to send me pictures of your happy, healthy, pets. Because
I don't want to go through your browser history.
Do not.
Well, it's kind of like one of those things too. It's like, there's so many resources out there. It's like just adoption age, programs, and you see the commercials at night, which is I was kind of thinking when you talk about that. It's like, oh my God, I need to go get a couple more dogs because you see they're just like tug at your heartstrings and you feel so bad for these animals.
Right? Well, like leaving them in the dumpsters too is it's just crazy. Like I've heard stories from so many truckers about how they got their pet, be it a cat or a dog, or we even saw some roosters getting adopted. Like they're just wandering around rest areas, truck stops, whatever the case may be. They're like, yeah, I found him. He was wandering around. I didn't want him to get hurt, and now he's been my pet for 9 years. Don't leave him in a box, I guess is where I'm going with this. Like somebody will pick him up and take care of him.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's always someone there to help out. Let's just go ahead and move on from that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad we had
Sorry
the
about
roses
that.
part of it, but let's move on for those raspberries. How about that?
That was tough. All right, well, I guess I could shine a little bit of brightness on this one. Roses to OOIDA for being one of 143 companies nominated as a top company for women to work in transportation.
Nice.
This is an annual award handed out by the Women in Trucking Association, and it aims to highlight companies that embody important attributes, according to the group, when it comes to being one of those companies. The public will have through June 28th to vote online for the award. You can select up to 10 companies that have been nominated to receive that top honor. And according to WIT, the top 30 companies with the highest number of votes will earn a spot in the Elite 30 and will be acknowledged during the group's Accelerate Conference and Expo in Houston coming up in November. So roses to OOIDA for being among those companies nominated. I can attest that it's a fantastic company to work for.
Sure.
I'm not a woman.
You're
but,
not.
Thank you for thank you for acknowledging that. But we do have plenty of ladies working around the office, and everybody seems just right as rain around here. So, except for Tyson, who's looking at pictures of dead puppies in his spare time.
I'm not helping the image here.
Hey, not to call you out, but quick correction there. Dallas is the conference. I believe you said Houston. We want to make sure people get to the right spot. That's all. I'm not trying to call you out or nothing.
Yeah,
just
that's
we want people to go to the right
Yeah.
spot. So make sure that's in Dallas in November, and we'll just keep the roses going here after. Just kind of keep those positive vibes going here about that, Tyson.
Yeah. So roses to a trucker who saved another trucker from a burning truck. So this happened in Grand Chutes, Wisconsin, off of Interstate 41, kind of near Route 15 in that area. So one trucker was going northbound on Interstate 41 and hit a concrete barrier, causing a fiery crash with another trucker. So we got two truckers involved here. Meanwhile, a third trucker, Randall DiNazio, he was going southbound when he witnessed the incident. So what he did after he witnessed this fiery crash, he stopped his truck, pulled it over, grabbed his fire extinguisher, crossed the median, and then stood in knee-high mud, oil, and diesel fuel. Yeah,
with the fire right by
with the fire, all that. When he realized that the driver in the truck on fire was still in the truck, this is all according to a report by WBAY, by the way. Great reporting on their end, but he did manage to get her out, thereby saving her life. And so, DiNazio's. So yeah. This is the fun part. So WBAY asked DiNazio, what his response was to why he saved her life, and his response was, "It's just what he does." That's it.
It's that simple.
Am I a horrible person? Because that's
do.
not what I do. Like I don't think that's gonna be my response.
Well, especially when you consider the circumstances, that's such a dangerous situation. But it's almost like, I mean, I'm not saying, what it is, but just like it seems like that's the typical response is like they don't feel like they're going that extra mile, but that's obviously they are. Like there's no doubt about that.
No, my immediate response is holy bleep, and then I maybe call 911.
You might call somebody, but just like actually like running to the danger is not a typical human reaction.
But yeah, we see this all the time. So with that being said, I think this guy definitely should be nominated for a Highway Hero or Highway Angel award. So don't be surprised if you see his name pop up again later when he's getting nominated for one of those awards.
Tip of the cap, Randall DiNazio.
Right?
Not what I do.
Yeah, like I said before, just kind of that, usual response, but just it doesn't really cease to amaze us, and that's why we always kind of just keep bringing them up and talking about them, because they do deserve whatever accolades they can get, because it's amazing just I mean, I want to call it heroic nature. I know they don't like those terms a lot of times, but that's what it is.
And every time we hear these stories too, like that's the response. They're like, "Well, I just do what anybody would do." I'm like, "No, you're not.
What I would do, probably.
You're definitely not."
Well, it looks like the raspberries have made a return, huh?
Oh yeah. So raspberries, I'm going to pass them out to the Pennsylvania State Police, or I guess at least one trooper in particular. Recently, the state's DOT and law enforcement teamed up for an initiative targeting unsafe driving practices in work zones. It's known as Operation Yellow Jacket. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start this by saying, this is something that's an important thing. Right. You should definitely try to reduce work zone fatalities, and take a second and save a life and all of that, right? I'm on board. The purpose of the initiative, according to PennDOT, is to reduce the number of those work zone fatalities. They had a large number of them over the last year, but as part of the operation, troopers are positioned in work zones in PennDOT vehicles wearing PennDOT-issued hard hats and vests. They look like they're construction workers out there. If they see a violation, such as speeding, tailgating, distracted driving, any of those things, they'll radio another trooper in a marked police car at the end of the work zone, and then that person will get pulled over.
Okay.
Here's the problem I have. And I don't know why. Maybe I get hung up on dumb crap a lot. But this is a statement from Trooper Jake Reimstein. And he said, quote, "Our goal is not to write tickets. Our goal is to prevent the violations that would warrant a ticket from happening in the first place. Those violations are what can cost people their lives. That is why we want the public to know that the state police have a presence in work zones to give them an extra incentive to slow down and use caution. It could save a life." I don't disagree with the it's saving a life. I do disagree because it does feel like your goal is to write tickets here.
A little bit.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, you're just basically changing from one Village People costume to another in order to catch people red-handed and in the act. Like, I don't know what else your goal could be here. Secondly, if you wanted people to know that there are police presences in the work zone, I don't know, show up in police vehicles, wearing police uniforms rather than playing dress-up and trying to catch people.
Yeah, not to use too harsh of a term, but it just seems a little deceitful, just kind of, just not quite on the up and up there. But like we said, the whole, the mission and that withstanding, we're on board with that, but just maybe a little bit more, clarity there would be nice.
Yeah, I think your goal is to write tickets, Trooper Jake. I'm just saying.
Well, looks like we do have time for one more story here, and it's another mixed bag, Tyson. So why don't you go ahead and detail that?
So this is another round of roses and raspberries combo. This one they both go to Governor Hochul for New York State, by the way, Governor Hochul, for stopping New York City's congestion pricing. So obviously we give roses to her for stopping the congestion pricing plan just a few weeks before it was scheduled to begin on June 30th. So just to recap, that program would have charged truckers up to $54 every single time they entered Manhattan at or below 60th Street. Meanwhile, passenger vehicles would have to pay no more than $22 just one time a day. So kind of a big deal there, but Governor Hochul cited the increasing cost of living as the reason as to why she paused the congestion pricing. And she even mentioned truck drivers when talking about how, workers shouldn't have to face, more financial burdens. We all agree with that. So, definitely, roses for that. By the way, the governor publicly voiced support for congestion pricing as recently as November. When MTA, gave their final approval for that. So the thing is, the economy back then, not that much different than it is today. So I don't know what the about face was, which leads me to raspberries to Governor Hochul for pausing congestion pricing. And the reason why is, so you're probably asking, what's the flip-flop? Because I think read between the lines, this is purely political reasons why this is. I know. Right. So, we need to ask ourselves why would this happen if it wasn't in an election year? My thought is probably not. Just my guess. I'm just putting that out there. So, that being said, this is only in a quote indefinite pause. So, chances are that once the dust has settled on the November election, plans to carry on with congestion pricing is likely to proceed. So in the meantime, there's more than half a dozen federal lawsuits to challenge the program. So, maybe the courts will stop it in the meantime. But yeah, just this weird flip-flop, weird timing. But the end result is, yay, no congestion pricing. So
indefinite pause. So once we count all the ballots, we'll get back to it. I got it.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And good news for you, being something that you cover regularly, you're gonna have you'll be following this. We can say that.
It'll keep me busy. It'll keep me busy for sure.
Between that and the dead puppies.
All right, well, it looks like
the joys of journalism.
We're out of time for this edition of Rose and Raspberries. Again, though, we do want to remind, if you have an idea for a rose or a raspberry, or if there's a mixed bag, we had several of those today, you can send those to roses@landlinemag.com. For Tyson Fisher and Ryan Witkowski, I'm S.J. Munoz. Landline Now will be back after this commercial break.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now. Welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. Marty is taking some maintenance time after a trip to one of the big trucking events of the year. But in the meanwhile, he's hearing about something we're all thinking about these days, that the price of everything is going up. Several truckers have stopped in to tell Marty about increased roadside service costs and higher lumping fees.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Well, Marty, how are you doing?
I am lovely, Mark, and you?
Doing great, doing great. Where are you at right now?
Well, I am basically at shop right now with the truck and trailer. So we're going to be down for a little bit. They're still having some issues with the generator.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll certainly let folks know when you're back on the road, but I guess this past weekend you had a big event. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. I was over at the American Truck Historical Society Truck Show and Convention, and it was held in York, Pennsylvania. And it's one of those, I don't know how many trucks finally, with the final numbers, but I was hearing between 900 and 1,000 trucks. So there was everything to look at all over the fairgrounds. And it's kind of a neat deal because some of us that are really into trucks kind of have their favorite era of trucks. And with going to a show like this, there's something from every era, every part of trucking that you can imagine. So everybody gets to see their favorite truck out there, and which is pretty exciting for a lot of people. And it's, if you go and talk to these guys that bring these trucks in, each of them have some fantastic stories on why they chose this truck as one that they want to collect or build or whatever they're doing at it. And people think of the ATHS as only being about the old trucks, historical trucks. Well, we had several newer trucks. A couple of them were actually custom made with 4 doors on a cab over, with one of them being a suicide door, all the way down to a army truck. There's so many different vehicles out there. And some of the new trucks, the newer trucks, they're just trucks that people are out there driving every day, and those people are proud of their trucks, and they wanted to come and show them off and basically share with everything that they've done to the truck and share that love of trucks. So kind of a neat deal. We also got to spend some time with a couple of our past board members, and that was Jay Hosty and John Taylor. So John was out there with his son, nicknamed Jet, and then Jay, he was always coming by and saying, "Hey, you need me to watch the trailer for, so you can take a quick little break." And so that really helped out, and I do appreciate him for doing that for us.
They're good guys. They're really good guys, and I'm glad you got to see them.
Yeah, yep.
Well, anyway, let's talk about some of the issues that are coming up right now. And I guess something came up recently involving road service. I wonder if you can explain to us what exactly happened.
Yeah, one of our members came in and we were discussing the changes in costs of things, and we all know that costs have basically skyrocketed on whether it's parts, service, it doesn't matter. And I hadn't really thought about a whole lot about the road service, and that member came in and saying that nowadays when you call in for a road service call, the cost that it's going to be is not only the cost to come out, the travel time and that, but they're going to charge a minimum of 3 hours of service on that call out, and you have to basically supply the credit card before they'll even consider sending out the truck. So a lot of times we talk about guys when they get into this business needing some upfront money and some money to fall back on, or at least access to that money. And this right here really spells out one of the reasons why you really need that. Just because if they won't even come out and look at your truck without some sort of payment ahead of time, you're going to need that available to you, and you want to be able to have that and not get stuck on the side of the road and wonder what we're going to do now. It's not like the old days where several trucks would stop and see if they had any parts or anything to help get you moving. You don't see a lot of that anymore. So you're kind of on your own out there, either what you can fix or what, calling out somebody to do it. And when you call somebody out, you better have some sort of way to access that money. And otherwise, you may be out of luck.
The thing that got me in all that, and there's a lot there to unpack, but requiring that you pay for a minimum of 3 hours service. I mean, if they're only at it a half hour, and that I guess that's unlikely, but it's possible, they're still going to charge you for 3 hours, huh?
Right, absolutely. And the ironic thing is, and how we talk about predatory towing and that a lot, where some of the time they'll send out a smaller truck than what is required, even if they know what they should have brought out to begin with, to basically pad the bill. Well, some of the road service guys, even if you tell them exactly what you need, because some of the time you can do that, some of the time they don't come out with what is totally needed. Well, then there's the trip back and forth to go get more parts, and that maybe should have been brought out when they came. And of course that adds on to that cost, and of course it extends out how much time is going to be involved in that whole process.
Boy, that's something else, and not good news, I wouldn't think. Now you mentioned cost out of control, and one of the things I'm kind of curious about, Marty, is lumper fees. That's another one where it seems like the trucker's always getting the short end of the stick. Have you heard anything about that lately?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of reports on lumper fees just skyrocketing in costs. The last guy that came in, his last lumper fee for his load was $900 to get his load unloaded. And most people are telling me anywhere from double the amount to maybe 50% more than it was just a couple years ago. And so this is something that needs to be thought about when you're accepting loads, and make sure that's going to be covered by the broker or the customer, whoever you're dealing with. And then also, are they paying for it through a comm check that you get directly from that broker, or are you going to have to pay for it and then hope to get reimbursed? So it's one of those fine lines where you really need to know up front who's paying for what and when.
That is, I wish you could have seen how far my jaw dropped when you said $900. That's out of control.
It is. When I was regular trucking with the reefer, the most I had seen at one stop was $350. And that was one of those nightmare loads that had one of this and one of that. And it was just one of those loads that you just know it's going to take you basically all day to get unloaded. And so you have to prepare yourself for that as well.
Okay. Well, Marty, we're out of time. Any final words before you ride off into the sunset?
Hey, guys, we'll let you know when the trailer gets fixed again. And then I just want to remind everybody, be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day at our website, landlinenow.com. That includes truck stops, truck shows, and other special events across the country. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.